You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
The nice thing about a podcast is when we start recording 45 minutes late because of me, nobody on a podcast is able to tell. It's not like, we're waiting around for this idiot to start this live show. I just have to out myself as being somebody who held up both of your days today. And I feel really bad about it.
I mean, you shouldn't. You don't need to lead with this. We could have just kept this on the cutting room floor.
I can't. You know? I'm too racked with guilt over throwing off your days today. I'm sorry.
As you should be. And I think shame is a emotion that we need to embrace more often.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. Within ourselves. I don't believe in societal shaming because I feel shame could come from within. I don't feel it should be imposed upon us by others. So I'm glad you're feeling this very healthy emotion.
Thank you, Ben.
Listen, man, I come from an Irish Catholic family, at least half of it. You don't have to tell me about feeling shame.
Same.
Like, that's just, yeah.
Same.
I think we carry with us at all times.
And my other half is an Italian Catholic family, so I have guilt all over the place. So it's great. We welcome you into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. My name is Tyler Mon, alongside Sam Dykstra and Benjamin Hill. Yeah, I had a very long story short. I had a long morning of getting a car to the mechanic and then getting home to my house and realizing that I had left my laptop somewhere else, and so I had to go and get my it was a whole thing. But we were supposed to record this at 1 o'clock Eastern time, and it is now 1:50 Eastern time, and we're just starting. And so I felt the need to absolve myself by admitting my grief and my guilt to my two co-hosts, who, as you could tell, both very supportive and very helpful and communicative as we welcome you into this week's edition of the official podcast of Minor League Baseball. We've got a ton to cover today, some stuff that we didn't get a chance to talk about last week, and things that will impact the 2022 season at the minor league level, from rules changes to stuff you'll see on the field, the new top 100 prospects list, which is out, which we'll talk about coming up here in a little bit. But first off, how you guys doing? We're 10 days out from opening day. Essentially, it is now March 25th. April 5th is when AAA will kick things off. You guys getting ready? Excited?
Well, I was going to let Sam speak because his microphone was unmuted, but he was just laying back, waiting for me to unmute and hop in there, which I was glad to do. But yeah, I'm doing all right. It's this is a rare occasion. It's like bringing it back to the peak pandemic days. We are all in, if not our own homes, we are all in separate homes right now, doing this entirely through Zoom. And it's a Friday. Spring is starting to be in the air here on the East Coast. As Tyler said, season starting in a couple of weeks. Time of transition and rebirth, renewal, revigorating.
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we should note here is that this is episode 350.
It is!
Is a nice round number. I don't know if 350 really pops in the way that 300 or 400 will, but I don't know. It feels like a
we like round numbered podcasts.
Yeah. 350 is a lot. So
that is true. Although I will say that I saved last week's episode as 350 on my computer. Was that 349?
Because I've been meaning to talk to you about this, Tyler, and we might as well do it in front of all the folks. We had that special episode.
That's what it was. And so I've actually been saving. I don't even remember which one that was. Now I need to change.
Ghost of the Minors special.
Right. And I saved that as its own number, but that was a special edition show. So that was technically 349 last week's. This is 350 this week, which is funny because when I was saving it, I was like, we didn't even mention that this is episode 350 because it wasn't. Because this is. So congratulations to all of us. As Ben deemed it yesterday in our group Slack, we're coming up on Greg Maddux in the all-time wins column.
Yeah, and Roger Clemens.
And Roger
Clemens 354, Maddux 355.
Coming for you, dudes.
Because I was trying to think, 350, that's a hallowed number in some degree, and baseball loves numbers. But then right off the top of my head, I couldn't come up with being in the 350 club, home runs or wins. I mean, it's a lot more impressive with wins, but I couldn't think of 350 having in and of itself a particular resonance. But I was thinking, who has more than 350 wins? Not many people.
Not many, and probably
Maddox and
never
Clemens
anybody
both
again.
do. Yeah, probably not, because you know who is the all-time active wins leader right now is Verlander with 226. And I'd like to believe that guy's got some, despite his advanced age, he has some life left in him, but I don't think he has, professionally speaking, what would that be? 74 more
wins
wins
left. He would have to put up 3 25-win seasons or 4 20-win seasons essentially to surpass that.
Yeah, it's 300
Doesn't
wins.
happen anymore.
It's just not really going to happen. There's barely any 200-game winners. I mean, him and Greinke, and I'm not even sure who else. And, I asked this trivia question on Twitter last week, not to immediately go down a rabbit hole, but there's only one player who has 100 or more wins and losses and a losing record, active player.
Ooh, that's a good question.
You said he was a first-round pick, then?
He was, yeah.
Huh.
A first-round draft pick of the New York Yankees.
Man, I am not.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm blanking.
Been a reliever much more often in more recent years. End up on the Phillies at the end of last year. Your friend and mine, Ian Kennedy, 100 wins.
Okay.
Interesting.
100 wins, 106 losses. Only one in triple digits in both categories and a losing record overall.
Wow.
Yeah. I know Ian Kennedy's been around a while. He did not come into my brain as like somebody who could have 100 wins. Even. So
100 on the nose.
There you go.
Interesting. Yeah, I would not have guessed that. But those are the things we love to do in baseball with weird numbers and little benchmarks. And we have hit one of those for this week's edition of the Show Before the Show podcast. Very exciting, 350 episodes. And we got a ton of stuff to get to here on this week's episode. You can get in touch with the show, as always, podcast@milb.com. You can find us on Twitter at Ben's Biz, at Sam Dykstra, MILB, and at Tyler Mon. And of course, Minor League Baseball is at MILB. And let's dive right in. Let's talk about some on-field stuff as we kick off this week's episode of the show. We have rules changes galore in Minor League Baseball. Experimental rules rolling out for the 2022 season. Pitch clocks, larger bases, defensive positioning changes, otherwise known as the shift ban, and the automatic ball strike system. We're going to run through them each individually, some of the details. On-field clocks will be used for the pitch timers at all full season affiliates to enforce regulations designed to create a crisp pace of play, according to our press release at MILB.com. Let's emphasize the enforce regulations part of this, because I feel like people generally think baseball is the sport without a clock. There shouldn't be a clock. There's no clock on the rules, blah, blah, blah. There are time regulations in the rule books in minor league baseball and in Major League Baseball. The addition of clocks is to enforce those. It's not as though the rules have never been there. This is not a new rule in terms of timing entirely. It is in terms of the visibility of pitch timers. Those rules were used in Low A West and in the Arizona Fall League in 2021. They led to a reduction in average game time of more than 20 minutes. I remember talking to a Low A West broadcaster last year who said, like, sometimes I feel like I'm not even into the flow of a broadcast because we'll have games that are done in like 2 hours and 20 minutes because they just speed by so quickly with the pace of play now improved due to the pitch timers. Larger bases, the bags, first, second, and third base will be increased from 15 inches square to 18 inches square at full season affiliates. This is due to two different things. Reducing injuries is one aim of this. Guys can step more to the outside of a bag, not worry about stepping on a fielder, vice versa, not worry about getting their hands stepped on if they're trying to steal a base. And that stealing bases is also an element of this as well. According to the press release, quote, the reduction in distance between bases led to a modest increase in the rate of successful stolen base attempts. So teams might gamble, players might gamble a little bit more. Defensive positioning, I know, is something that we're going to talk a lot about. Double A, High A, and Low A. The defensive team must have a minimum of 4 players on the infield with at least 2 infielders completely on either side of second base. So at Double A, High A, and Low A, no more 3 guys on one side of the infield, 1 on the other. I personally not a huge fan of banning the shift, but we'll discuss that. And then the automated ball strike system in select games in AAA and the low A Southeast. Robot umpires, quote unquote, for lack of a better term. ABS technology will be used to call balls and strikes. It was used in the Independent Atlantic League in 2019 as kind of a testing ground. It was rolled out in select games in low A Southeast and in the AFL in 2021. Guys, give me your thoughts. I don't know who wants to jump in first, but just kind of take me through the things that stand out most among these, the thing you're most excited to see implemented, the thing you've got questions about implementation. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I think the thing I'm most excited to see is just picking up where you left off with the ABS system. Is one detail that's going to be completely new. We have not seen this. I don't believe we've seen this anywhere yet. It's the challenge system coming to the Florida State League, formerly Low A Southeast, formerly Florida State League. So in select games this year, and the release doesn't say exactly when, so we're going to have to find out what that means. But umpires are going to call balls and strikes, human umpires, based on what they see. And each team is going to have 3 appeals or 3 challenges. The pitcher, catcher, or the batter can appeal. It's not like the third baseman can say, I think that was a strike or something. It has to be one of those 3 guys. But any of those 3 guys can challenge a ball strike call. And then it will go to the ABS system. So it's kind of more of a backup than driving the system. Feels like an alteration of some of the rules we've seen so far, and maybe more of a hybrid approach using the robot umpires, which I know, human umpires don't necessarily love the system because they're the ones who get blamed, even though they're just listening to a headphone that they have in place, and it goes to an iPhone in their pocket. It allows some humanity in the game, but it also allows some intrigue. Challenging a call, I think, could be fascinating, and because it's automatic and we know it immediately if it's a ball or a strike, hopefully this happens pretty quick. I mean, a lot of these rules are being put into place to increase the pace of play, to keep things moving. If we're going to have challenges, you would think that we have to set aside time to do that. Hopefully it's pretty quick. Hopefully it's just like the catcher turns around and says, I'm challenging. The umpire puts, I'm not sure exactly how this is going to work. Another thing we have to kind of dig into. Is it going to be, they go to the earpiece? Is it, they turn around and somebody in the press box says it was a ball or strike? I don't know. We'll have to see, but it should be seconds. It should not take minutes to do this.
I'm a little bummed that there's no flag. No, managers aren't going to be chucking a flag out there.
I mean, I am interested to see exactly what this is going to look. I'm sure it's verbal.
Yeah, I think it's just you call time, and
I can't imagine everybody's going to be carrying a red flag in their back pocket.
Now, one thing I am interested to see is what is and I know what it's going to be. It's going to be this is an audio formatted podcast, and I hate when people do visual things, but what is the visual signal that they're going to do? So Sam, huge soccer fan, for a VAR review, the people draw the little TV box, right? When they want to review, or when the official shows to the camera that they're doing a review, he draws the little TV screen. In baseball, they do the earphone gesture, like put the headset on. We want to challenge that. What is it going to be in the minor leagues? Are we going to do that? Are we going to do the little TV screen? These are the things I think about.
Yeah, I would imagine since it's baseball, it is going to be the earmuffs.
Headset.
Yeah, headset.
That's a better way to put it. Earmuffs.
Well, no, headset's the better way to put it because that's actually what's happening.
Earmuffs draws it. You understand what we're saying,
right,
though,
right,
as we do this on an audio medium.
I'm sure an umpire would love to have earmuffs so he doesn't have to hear the crap from either dugout.
That's true.
But I would imagine it's going to be that. I'm sure because it's happening at Low A Southeast, it might be as simple as just like raising your hand, verbally saying we want to challenge. It's not going to be in these massive major league ballparks where sometimes you can't hear each other. But yeah, no, I'm fascinated by that. I do love this hybrid approach. I like it more than just doing robot umpires. I would love to see how it's going to be implemented. Like, there's so much game theory here. Like, do you pocket it because you want to save your 3 challenges for later in the game in higher leverage situations? Or is it just going to be, hey, I really do think that was a strike. We're using it now regardless. Because if you're right, you get to keep it. If you're wrong, you lose it. So you could have 6, 7 challenges. As long as they're all right, you keep your total of 3. So this is just something I'm fascinated to see how it's going to work out. A lot of these other things we've seen in other places, this is wholly new. And I'm sure we're going to learn a little bit more about it as the season goes along and once we actually see it implemented here in the first couple of weeks.
And
Yeah, I'm excited for
if
that
you're
one.
terrible at the challenges, just want to jump in, you could still win a Super Bowl as the head coach in Kansas City. Good, bad challenge joke. Sorry, Ben, I cut you off.
That's all right. You had to get in
I had to.
a little
I'm an
bitter
AFC West
aside.
fan, and I am bitter.
But I do like that aspect of being able to challenge a ball and strike, but not having the entire game turned over to something completely automated. And that's something I read other people making this point. But an umpire strike zone can perhaps shift a little bit during a game. Maybe it's a blowout. Maybe that a storm's coming in and you're trying to make it official, and there might be kind of an understanding. Okay, it's going to widen a bit, or whatever. And I think it'd be a real shame to take that sort of human discretion away entirely in focus of a machine making all the calls, but yet to have the ability in particularly egregious examples to perhaps override and add an element of intrigue to the game. And I would like to think these particular challenges go very quickly because, as Sam said earlier, you don't want to add something else in an era of trying to think of shaving minutes off the game, something else that adds to them even more. So I get that, but also going back to the pitch clock, and as Sam said, and you guys said, there were really results last year, and I think that is really promising in terms of, I can't think of any other one thing that could potentially, shave 15, 20, 25 minutes off a game and, have it be as essentially as organic a way as possible to do that. Seems to be via the pitch clock. And yes, baseball's theoretically eternal. A game could go forever, and I've loved that there's no overriding clock. But I also am of the opinion the games have been too long for quite some time. And sometimes I don't really get in arguments on Twitter, but sometimes when people say, if you think the game's too long, then you're not a baseball fan. And I disagree with that kind of stuff, because I feel like I love a good epic game, but a lot of games have become 3 hours and 40 minutes for just some run-of-the-mill 6-2 game in mid-July. And is that really what we want? Is I'm sorry if you're like the most beautiful fan and you've savored every pitch and every decision and all 220 minutes of a game on a Tuesday night, and we're able to stay up for the whole thing. But I think if we can get back to the days when an average game is closer to 2.5 hours, it's just really good for the sport. And obviously a lot of people making decisions right now agree with that line of thinking. And I don't want to go down further tangents about all that, but I'm all for ways to make the game quicker without compromising aspects of the sport that we all love, which is why it's always an argument, because it's a delicate dance and not everything's going to be done right. And that's what I like about the minor leagues, is that it's lower profile and you can experiment a little bit, and some of these things might get adopted. And I'm thinking in other years, sometimes there've been rule changes where we're like, well, it's good the minors are trying this, but it'll never go to the major leagues. You know what we said that about for sure? We could probably dig up the tape. This quote unquote ghost runners. We were like, oh, it makes sense in the minor leagues.
I remember saying that
repeatedly in the minor leagues, in a very specific to the minor leagues, which it did. But guess what? That's in the major leagues now. So I would say never say never.
Yeah.
If a rule change appears in the minors, never say never. But it also might not work or be presumed to not have as much of an effect as they'd like, and it doesn't go forward. But I like the spirit of like, let's try new things.
And just so we go to like hard data here, Tyler mentioned it shaved like 20 minutes. We'll put it this way. Low A East had an average time of 3 hours, 5 seconds for a 9-inning game last year. Low A Southeast was 3 hours, 11 minutes. Now I'm choosing those two because they're on the same level as Low A West, now the California League, et cetera, et cetera. You guys want to guess what the average 9-inning game was in the California League last year?
235.
I'm going to go 238.
All right, so it was a little bit longer than that. It was 2 hours, 43 minutes.
Okay.
But still that's 22 minutes. Someone's honking outside my door.
Sorry, New York City.
You can hear that. I know, baby. But that's almost 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Shorter than Low A Southeast?
Yeah.
And it's
28-minute difference.
Yeah, you go like the majors was 3 hours and 10. I don't want to necessarily compare those because there's like longer commercial breaks. There's lots of other things that can add time in the major leagues. But you look up and down the minors, I think only the Mexican League, maybe.
Hey, we're talking about rules changes here.
I don't know what's going on.
My mom's from East Harlem. I can make that joke.
or only double A. I think double A was the only level that had hours or games averaging less than 3 hours last year. So when we're talking 2 hours, 43 minutes, that's a significant chunk.
Yeah.
And it affects a lot more people than just the players in the game. It affects people who work at the ballpark. It affects the neighborhood. So we'll see how this is going to go, but I am encouraged to see it across the board and see how things are going to drop everywhere this season.
Yeah, that is definitely true. The next item that I think we should talk about is the quote unquote defensive positioning rules changes, which, as I noted, double A, high A, and low A, the defensive team must have a minimum of 4 players on the infield. So I'm assuming that means feet fully within the boundary of the infield on the dirt, with at least 2 infielders completely on either side of second base. Now, this is a line from the press release that I had not really considered things in this light. Quote, these restrictions on defensive positioning are intended to allow infielders to better showcase their athleticism, to increase batting average on balls in play, and to restore a more traditional set of aesthetics and outcomes on batted balls. I am not a big fan of banning the shift, but even more than that, I'm kind of interested into how this is implemented. If you have both infielders on the left side, both infielders on the right side of second base, what does that mean? Can you be standing on the exact line of second base as it goes into center field? Technically, you're on the third base, left field side of the bag. When a pitcher goes into his delivery, can you run across the bag so you are on the other side, on the first base side? How is this going to be enforced? And how much of a difference is it really going to make? I think that's ultimately the question.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is like, it sounds good in theory. Is it going to be a more exciting game? Like, are you going to be talking in June of saying like, oh yeah, there were a lot more balls in play, and this was just a much greater product? Is the average fan going to notice that? Also, the way the game is being taught now, like, I don't think people are going to chuck out player development strategies, which is primarily now to swing hard and give it your A+ swing every time. Trying to make hard contact
and
trying
to
force
hit
it
it
through
in
the
the air.
infield. Yeah,
there's not a whole lot of let's rip this single through the hole on the right side if you're a left-handed hitter.
Right. I mean, maybe that'll change generationally. Like, maybe that'll take a few years to implement. But if guys are preparing to play in the major leagues, which does not have this, people I've talked to, like catchers I've talked to about catching under the ABS system, they've said, I'm not going to change who I am as a catcher because of this system. Like, it's great that it exists, whatever. It is what it is. But I'm trying to make the major leagues. They don't have this in the major leagues. It's not going to help me to just chuck out framing for this. So, like, if I'm a hitter, yeah, it's great that this exists. I might get a few extra hits, but I'm not going to just start trying to force it the other way and getting weak contact or, whatever. I'm not going to change who I am just to get some extra hits in double A. And then all of a sudden I get to the majors and I'm hitting into the shift every time. Maybe if that changes in the major league someday, we'll see that. But I think it's going to be a while before we really feel the effects of this one.
Ben, any thoughts on the shift?
Well, since we're all muted, I'll unmute and say, like, I don't want to get into a larger argument, and you guys pay more attention to on-field stuff than I do, obviously. But I'm all for banning the shift because you can call me an old man or not, but I just like looking at a field and seeing, just as if I was playing, on my for Ambler Junior baseball, at age 11. I just like the field to kind of look what it was when I was on the field, when I was what I associate just what 9 people on a field look like. And sometimes when I'm watching a game and there's just all that bunching and you have whatever, whatever. We know all the scenarios that have gone through. It just, to me, is like, what? And I don't know how many people keep score, but I'm like, wait, that was a pop up to the second baseman, but he caught it, or whatever the case may be. I like everyone kind of being in their own territory, and I don't argue with the decisions that were made to start implementing them. I think it makes a lot of sense to do what works the best to the individual approach for each hitter, but anything to kind of revert to what a traditional infield alignment. It just aesthetically looks better. And I do hope, yeah, as you guys said, it's not going to change player development strategies, but maybe opens up a little bit more of the, old school strategic thinking, because the fielders have to be played in a certain way. I would like to see the runners be able to move up a little bit more, a little more situational hitting, hitting runs not being something you might see once every 3 years at this point, that kind of thing. Does banning the shift just magically make things the way I want them to be, which is basically like the way things were 30 to 35 years ago when I was a lad? No, but any step we can make in the right direction and is good for me.
Banning the shift isn't going to bring back Rocco's Modern Life then.
Oh man, that was after my time. Come on now.
That was my time.
Just like
that was my time.
Popeye reruns.
Speaking of baseball things that were brought into the culture 30 years ago, at what point, and I know I'm already past the point, but at what point, being children of the Griffey era, at what point am I not allowed to ever wear a hat backwards again? I think we've had this conversation before on the show. The other day, I was in a store. I was delighted to see a couple of kids. They're probably like 10, 11, 12 baseball playing kids. They had uniforms on. They had just come from a game or something. And they had their hats on backwards. I was very happy about it. But I had mine on backwards too. And I was like, one of us is wrong. And I know it's me. I know you two are allowed to do this. Just because I was a kid when Griffey made this cool, I'm 36 now. I probably should not be doing this anymore, right?
Why is it not cool? Or why can't you do it?
It's still cool. I'm not cool. So I can't be doing, I'm like a middle-aged man now. I can't be getting away with wearing my hat backwards, can I?
I think if your actions tried to make it seem like you were cool, like,
okay.
See, I've got my hat on backwards, aren't I? Like you're just strutting around the grocery store, acting like you own the joint, then I would have a problem with it.
I just worry about being Steve Buscemi in that. How do you do, fellow kids? I worry about that being me.
Well, did you skateboard to the shop?
And I carried it over my shoulder and I said that to him. How do you do
again,
that?
actions speak louder than words.
All right, let's move on and talk some promos. We've been having so much fun. Sam, you missed out on this last week. We did Double A without you. Sucks for you. But we're going to include you in our fun and witty banter about the best high A promotions of the 2022 season. Benjamin Hill, kick us off.
Yeah, well, as has been the case all month, I'm filling out my 2022 promo spreadsheet. We talked about some of the stuff I've uncovered in AAA 2 weeks ago, Double A last week, and now, yes, high A promos. So I'm taking a look at my spreadsheet right now and just going to throw some at you guys that I found interesting. The Spokane Indians, May 18th, Field of Green sweepstakes. And I believe they may have done this before, but the Field of Green sweepstakes is where you can enter as a fan into the sweepstakes, and the winner gets the grounds crew for a day to do like a personal project at home. I guess, do your yard. I see Tyler as
that is amazing.
Yeah, as a homeowner, or now, getting a new house from one to another.
Yeah.
I think Sam and I, as an apartment dwellers, might not really think like, what are we going to do with a grounds crew?
Like, can they paint? Can they do indoor tasks?
You want to take out the trash or something? But I think that's a cool thing. I mean, obviously you have to clear with your grounds crew first, or I hope you do, but kind of getting them away from the ballpark and utilizing their services for a fan beautification project. It's just one of those kind of quirky ideas. I don't think it's entirely new, but I'm a fan of that for sure.
I want to DM Spokane and see if I can fly their guys out here. Be like, if I enter, is travel included in this? I do. One of my best friends here in Denver hosts an afternoon sports talk radio show, and he had the Rockies head grounds crew guy on a show a couple of years ago, and he asked him like 2 questions about. It was after they did the one of the NHL outdoor games between the Avalanche and the Red Wings at Coors Field, and he asked him about getting the grounds ready for that and everything. And he said like, I'm going to ask you 2 questions, then I'm just going to ask you a ton of questions about my lawn. And that was the whole interview. It was just my buddy Nate asking grounds questions of a groundskeeper about his own grass. That's what I would do.
So you got it all planned out. Well,
Yeah.
Head to Spokane, Washington, May 18th. Also in the Northwest League, the High A Northwest League, Eugene Emeralds. They're good for some interesting stuff every year. July 2nd is Merry Pranksters Night with jerseys, and that is a reference, I believe, to the Merry Pranksters of the the countercultural late 60s. Eugene is a city with a strong, for lack of a better way to put it, hippie aesthetic. A lot of free thinkers out there, a lot of very left of center mentalities. So they're doing the Merry Pranksters Night in tribute to that era of, again, for lack of a better word to put it, hippie thought. I believe Merry Pranksters, was that like Ken Kesey was part of that? Well, maybe the electric Kool-Aid acid test. A lot of that sort of stuff. So we need to look into that more, but jerseys surrounding that.
Those will be psychedelic.
Yeah, psychedelic, hallucinogenic. Interesting stuff going on there. That's July 2nd. 2 months after that, September 4th, this is one of the Eugene Emeralds Copa nights. We've talked about it before, how they have the Monarcas identity, and I believe we've mentioned that as one of our favorites among the Copa de la Diversión identities in minor league baseball. But September 4th, on one of their Copa nights, they're giving away a Cesar Chavez bobbleheads. So two people on the Eugene calendar, Merry Pranksters, and then 2 months later, September 4th, Cesar Chavez on a Copa night. Get the Cesar. I just said Cesar Chavez, and then I said Cesar Chavez. Man, I got to get it straight in my mind. Cesar Chavez, right?
I wonder if there has ever been a Cesar Chavez bobblehead ever produced. Like, I wonder if that has been a thing, that not even just at a minor league baseball game, that just seems so that's a crossover that I don't think a whole lot of people expect.
A quick Google search appears to be no.
Now we know.
There are a lot of like other Chavezes. There's like
Andy Chavez, I'm sure.
Eric Chavez.
Chavez.
Andy Chavez is coming up a bunch as well. I am not seeing any.
Not Cesar Chavez.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's a cool one.
You said that was in September, Ben?
September 4th, Eugene Emeralds. Yeah.
All right. We're going to have to remember. I definitely want to get somebody on to talk about that.
Yeah, but I don't think we've seen too many more, kind of rabble-rousing bobbleheads, union solidarity bobbleheads, labor movement bobbleheads, that kind of thing. So that is an interesting one to think that a team is doing. Moving on to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. The Dash, as you guys know, before they were the Dash, they were the Winston-Salem Warthogs. And if you go to a Winston-Salem Dash game this season on a Wednesday, then lucky you, because it's Warthog Wednesday. Every Wednesday, the Dash plays the Warthog. And I just wanted to bring that one up because I think that's a pretty cool thing. That previous identity, they changed names in in conjunction with moving to the new ballpark, which was
2009. They changed the year that they were supposed to move into the new ballpark, and then they moved in the following year. So they played one weird orphan season at Ernie Shore Field at Wake Forest as the Dash.
Yeah, so you can get your Warthog fix on Wednesdays. Warthog Wednesday. You got to love the alliteration, and check out that logo if you've never seen it to see a baseball Warthog logo. Let's see, the Hickory Crawdads. We've seen a lot of awful night promotions through the years, and I assume this is closer to an awful night promotion, which was originated with the Altoona Curve. But July 27th, night of horrible promotions. So I'm keeping that one circled. I like when teams try to subvert expectations, and the weirder and darker, the better, in my opinion. So we'll see how far they go with that one. They're also, again, with these kind of old school, ridiculous promos, backwards night on April 16th in Hickory, where they start in the ninth inning and play down to the first. One interesting detail about that one is said that the players will be asking fans for autographs on backwards night. So interesting to see how deep they take that concept, or how into it the players will be. But I'm sure a couple players can get into it and go and ask fans for some autographs on backwards night. Brooklyn, I still got to get in my head. Brooklyn is the Cyclones, a high A team, and they got a lot of stuff. Talk about weekly promotions. Winston-Salem, Warthog Wednesday. In Brooklyn, World Record Wednesday. Every Wednesday, going to attempt to set a world record. And I'm sure
every Wednesday
is World Record Wednesday. So we'll see how deep they go with that. One thing I learned very on in my coverage of minor league baseball promotions is that almost every team world record attempt, whether it looks successful or not, doesn't, almost none of them actually become world records, because Guinness is, I think, justifiably in a lot of ways, but it's really expensive to have a world record verified. I mean, you need so much documentation. The best way to do it is to have one of their representatives on site, but are you really going to pay to have a Guinness guy come, verify your world's longest or world's largest game of, head, shoulders, knees, and toes, or that kind of thing? So we'll see. But World Record Wednesday, that's, to me, I just like that as a concept. We'll see how deep they go with it, how hard they try to verify. But I think that's great because that just means every week, every Wednesday, and generally not a huge attendance day, but like, okay, I showed up at a game, and I don't think the average fan will go to a game because it's World Record Wednesday, but then you've got that story and with kids and like, well, we didn't know when we got there, but it was going to be the, most people trying to blow a bubble at once, and they handed out gum or whatever it is. I think it's just a fun way to keep the crowd engaged and do something unexpected on World Record Wednesday night. I've never really seen Friends, so I don't get the references. Brooklyn, though, on July 9th, a turkey head bobblehead. So maybe you guys get that, but there's going to be a turkey head bobblehead. The image the Cyclones have on their promo page is, I doubt what it will look like, but it was just like a human body, and then it was just like a full frozen turkey like on the head. Maybe that's what it will look like.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so who knew? One more from Brooklyn, July 4th. We've seen a lot of teams through the years do bob elections, which are almost always like, for presidential contests. You have the two Republican, Democratic nominees available in bobblehead form, and you choose which one you want, and then whatever candidate they run out of first is the winner of the bob election. So I've never seen the bob election applied to a non-political context. But July 4th in Brooklyn is a bob election for America's favorite hot dog condiment. So you get to choose between a ketchup, mustard, or relish bobblehead, and then they will win the bob election. I would assume, if you're betting, then of course, who wouldn't want to bet on a condiment-related bob election? But I assume mustard would be the strong choice there, especially in Brooklyn. That just seems like the solid one.
What are you two dudes voting for?
Ketchup.
Wow.
I mean, it's a good thing they're not doing this with like a Chicago affiliate, because they would just be
right. Then it'd be like
all sorts of
random, some sort of pickled onions, and we threw a chocolate bar on there, and corn kernels, because nothing makes sense with a Chicago style hot dog.
Literally a whole pickle, a pickle that goes parallel to the hot dog. There's no relish.
Literally a whole pickle.
Yeah. Well, not a whole. Okay, a pickle spear. Excuse me.
Right,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah. Not sliced and diced. Just
I go mustard,
parallel.
by the way. I'm with Ben. I go mustard.
Yeah, I go mustard. I have nothing against ketchup on a hot dog, but I don't go out of my way to do that. And I think that's
it's fine.
Yeah, that's, no offense, Sam. I believe that's a little bit more of an immature choice.
I was going to say, I have the palate of a 6-year-old, so it's fine. I've got chicken nuggets in my fridge right now. I'm not afraid to admit that.
There's only one roll of aluminum foil behind you, though, today. I'm disappointed.
I thought about this and was like, I'm just gonna leave it. I think it's fine. And no, don't worry. I have the second one over here, Tyler. So
I love doing this show.
I
love doing this show every week. I just want you to both know. Ben, please continue.
What else do we got? There's, as we mentioned before, there's been an increased emphasis this season on, not infringing on licensed properties, trademarks, and whatnot. So April 21st, the Hudson Valley Renegades have a calamari competition. And at first I was like, what is that? Then you think about it. They're paying tribute to Squid Games. Calamari competition.
That could go downhill real quick.
Interesting.
I've been a little worried that teams are going to get into Squid Game. Like, there's some fun stuff you could do with it. Don't get me wrong, but that's a show about like people legitimately dying over capitalism. So
yeah, it's true.
Where is this
kind of ugly? Yeah, it's kind of ugly.
I don't know how deep they'll take the concept, but there is a calamari competition on April 21st. So head to Hudson Valley and find out. They also have what else do they have? They have quite a bit. They have a a free wedding night on August 13th, which I believe means like you get married at the ballpark and they take care of every aspect of it. DJ, you got the venue right there, DJ, catering. Could be a way to save some money and do something memorable. A free wedding on August 13th. I should look into that one more. I don't know if they're giving away the free wedding then, or if it's going to be whoever won the free wedding gets to have it that day. But free wedding, those can get expensive in today's society, I've been told. So let's keep that one in mind. And let's see, one more from Hudson Valley, right? 420 is horticulture night with a flower pot giveaway. Yeah, snuck that one past the censors. What else we got?
Oh man,
are you telling me like there's not a 420 promotion in one of these Oregon teams? Like,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
I didn't see.
Is Hillsborough doing anything? Or
that's a good point. I
didn't see one in Hillsborough. No,
Eugene.
Not to play into stereotypes.
Eugene should be. Eugene is they are the prime spot for that.
Maybe they're not
a
home.
Giant university. That could be.
Like it's with these 6-game series now. Everybody's not going to be home all the time.
There's no minor league baseball team in Boulder, Colorado, so I feel like Eugene is the next smartest connection for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't see too much of that, and but where else do we go? We could go all the way to Appleton, Wisconsin. You know that the Timber Rattlers always give away a ton of bobbleheads. They have like Garrett Mitchell, Sal Frelick, Corbin Burns, Devin Williams, Freddie Peralta, mascot Fang playing kickball, Dinosaur Night with their other mascot Whiffer, on safari, Brattoberfest with a Joey Weimer bobblehead. So more bobbleheads on the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers calendar than just about any other team, including a Buttercup bobblehead for Udder Tuggers weekend, which is coming back. And Buttercup, I believe, is their cow mascot when they play as the Udder Tuggers. And we've talked about that unique alternate identity in the past for sure. Cedar Rapids Colonels are going the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs route with wearing bacon jerseys on I Love Pork Night, July 8th. So if you're a fan of that, hit it up. One thing I think is cool, staying now in the High A Central. I mean, what was the High A Central and was now the Midwest League, and that's what it was before. You know what I'm saying? The High A Midwest League, Quad City River Bandits. They're doing a whole series of hometown hero bobbleheads. So on separate occasions, they're just giving away a doctor bobblehead, a paramedic bobblehead, a nurse bobblehead, a firefighter bobblehead, and a police bobblehead. And I think that's pretty cool to, coming into the first full season since a lot of stuff has gone down in America and in all our communities, to pay tribute with that series of bobbleheads. And I'm sure they'll have a lot of things surrounding those nights, honoring those people as well. So I think that's a pretty cool bobblehead series going on in Quad Cities. And I think that's about all I have for High A. But I will say, we did the Double A last week, but the Erie Seawolves schedule was not yet out. They are a Double A team. That was released earlier this week. I don't think I've ever seen a giveaway series related to like a prospect per se, but they have Torque Tuesdays all season long. And so you get a Spencer Torkelson jersey lunch bag, a tank top, a binder, a card set, a poster, a Torque Tank bobblehead. So these are on Tuesdays all throughout the season, all related to Torkelson. And I don't think I've seen such an investment in a player on a giveaway front, at least at such a early stage of said player's career.
Yeah, before he's even debuted. I mean, he was in Erie for a good portion of last season, so I'm sure he made an impact on everybody in that region. And being a former number 1 overall pick, that'll happen. But yeah, that's kind of crazy. Like they put a lot of eggs in that basket.
Yeah, they very much did. And I mentioned this on Twitter the other day, but also with the Erie Seawolves, their midweek matinee games are branded as Howl at the Noon, with a corresponding logo of a wolf like howling at the sun. And I just think that's creative. I like to see teams go the extra mile, which is kind of branding specific days, having corresponding logos for it. And I also like that they, on their Halloween weekend, July 29th, the Erie Seawolves are playing as the Wait for it. Erie Seawolves.
I like it.
I was prepared for the Erie Werewolves.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been good too.
Yeah.
Might not be too late. They could be the Erie Werewolves.
Erie.
Well, they are wearing Frankenwolf hats and special theme
All right.
jerseys. So, give them a lot of credit for that creativity. So that's double A. I know we were focused on high A, but that was a late arrival, Erie Seawolves. And we'll pick up our promo talk next week with the lowest level, but certainly not the worst level, because all levels are created equal in our eyes, at least from a fan experience standpoint. We'll be moving on to single A.
The final frontier. Single A.
Final
No longer low
Single
A.
A.
Yes. Single A.
Yeah, it was Class A, and then it was Low A, and now it's Single A.
It was Class A full season, not to be confused with Class A short season.
Yes.
And now it is just, single A. Right.
Single A.
We're learning still.
Single A. It's like a Canadian pickup artist in a bar sidles up to the woman and says, Single A.
That was pretty good. I think we got to go out on that. You can check your local team's promo calendar. Teams are releasing those fast and furiously across the country. And next week, Single A for our final installment, the week ahead of opening day, which is so exciting. So that'll wrap up our opening segment on this week's episode of the show before the show. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, guys. Great talking to you.
Sam and I are chatting top 100. Josh Jackson will stop by the show, and we'll wrap things up coming up later on.
All right, listen up, nacho chips. Quiet down, crispy potatoes. This is the moment Velveeta's been preparing you for, and you're not about to crack under pressure. Today's the day to go all in on the drip. Velveeta's Heat and Eat Queso is the MVP of any game day spread, so stick by them, and you'll be golden. Now get out there and make delicious history. No tailgate party is complete without Velveeta.
We'll move it along to some MLB Pipeline content. The top 100 prospects in baseball formally unveiled for 2022, as well as team top 30 lists. We're recording this on Friday, the 25th of March. So coming up on Monday, the American League West will be our final division to be unveiled, but the other 5 divisions of baseball have been released. Let's run through some of the highlights and discuss the new top 100. We're going to go through the top 10 prospects. I'll give you the rundown on those. And they are led by shortstop / third baseman Bobby Witt Jr., the Kansas City Royals, who is expected to make his major league debut maybe by opening day. If not by opening day, I would say very early on into the season if he starts hot at AAA Omaha. The Baltimore Orioles catcher Adley Rutschman is number 2. Julio Rodriguez, friend of the show, along with the other 2 dudes, and number 4 and number 5 on this list. Julio, the outfielder in the Mariners system, is the 3rd-ranked prospect in baseball. Spencer Torkelson, the corner infielder in the Detroit Tigers organization, checks in at number 4. His Tigers teammate Riley Green, the outfielder at number 5. Then it's another Orioles prospect. Right-handed pitcher Grayson Rodriguez is number 6. Gabriel Moreno, the Toronto Blue Jays catching prospect, the top catching prospect in baseball, is number 7. New York Yankees shortstop prospect Anthony Volpe continues his meteoric rise among prospect rankings as the number 8 overall prospect in baseball, the shortstop who was a first-round selection in 2019. Padres shortstop prospect CJ Abrams is number 9, and Francisco Alvarez, the catching prospect in the New York Mets organization, is number 10. So we've got 2 teams with multiple top 10 prospects, and those guys are all in the top 6. Baltimore with Adley Rutschman and Grayson Rodriguez at 2 and 6. Detroit with Torkelson and Green at 4 and 5. If you expanded this out to the top 11, the Mariners have 2 in the top 11 because they've also got Noelvi Marte, their shortstop prospect, at number 11. But Sam, you obviously did so much work as part of the group to build the top 100 and the top 30s for these major league organizations in 2022. Let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think the big thing that grabbed headlines beyond just what we wrote, and we knew this was going to happen when we released the list, was there's a new number 1. You mentioned Bobby Witt Jr. is now the number 1 prospect in baseball, according to our list. Now, it is a legitimate argument. Among the top 3, Julio Rodriguez hasn't been ranked number 1 elsewhere, but he is definitely on that tier with Adley Rutschman and Bobby Witt Jr. Some other places have Rutschman number 1 overall. He was our number 1 overall prospect at the end of last season. So what changed? It's not so much Rutschman losing the number one spot as much as it is Witt going up and grabbing it. He finished last year at AAA, was a really, really special hitter there, was a 30-30 candidate, one of the closest 30-30 guys we've had in recent memory in the minor leagues, following just a steal shy that he actually did steal. The game was just canceled and it didn't count, but he did steal 30 bases last year. He plays a really quality shortstop. He might be on the opening day roster, like you said, Tyler, for Kansas City at third base, just because of organizational need. The arm's going to play there. He's super athletic. It's plus tools across the board. And I'm not joking about that. It was 60s at every spot, except for power, which we went 70 with. And, when I was going back and forth on this, you could argue that he was a 65, even 70 grade runner too. He's just so efficient on the base pass and so fast, which obviously helps him in his defensive work. He's just a really, really special talent. And when you look at what he's done offensively this quick in his career, jumping essentially from rookie ball to AA last year, and he struggled a little bit at the beginning of the season, but really adjusted to AA and grew into it. And that was the biggest thing for me with him, is the way he adjusted constantly in 2021. This is not a player who's just like, hey, I'm really good and I'm just going to make this work and I'm going to force myself into every situation. I know there's some questions about his contact rate and is he going to, make enough contact at the next level to be a plus hitter. His strikeout rate went down when he went from AA to AAA. That doesn't happen very often. And it certainly doesn't happen for a player who's 21 years old right now. He's turning 22 in June. So it was his age 21 season last year. Normally those guys are out of their depth at AAA. Bobby Witt Jr., every time he played, basically looked like the best player on the field at that young age, everywhere he went last year. We were debating amongst ourselves before we did this. We put it out for feedback. We got some feedback from other people that said, yeah, Witt is essentially taking that number one mantle. That's why we felt comfortable going with him at number one. We are not Adley Rutschman haters by any means, bumping him to number two. There's only one guy who can be number two, and it's him. It might be a Gold Glove caliber catcher right away when he makes the major leagues. Really, really special back there. Guys love throwing to him. Pretty much everybody in the Orioles organization loves throwing to him. The relationship he has with Grayson Rodriguez, the way they communicate and get the best out of each other is really, really special. Obviously a good switch hitting prospect as well. Has some pop, can be a plus hitter. Maybe the power is a little bit ahead of the hit tool, but he can be special on that side too. Like if he ever needed to move to first base, we would still think of him as a really good prospect because the bat is so good, but because he also brings a quality glove to a premium position at catcher. He's just unrivaled when it comes to catching prospects right now. And this is a really, really deep catching prospect situation that we have on our hands going into 2022. Just quickly on Julio Rodriguez, I've mentioned this in other places, might be the best hitting prospect in the game right now if you just focus on the bat. We gave his hit tool a 70. This is a guy who's hit 300 and above pretty much everywhere he's played so far in the minor leagues. He has the power to match it. That's a 65 tool right now. If you went 70 on both, I wouldn't necessarily argue against you. He's focused on trying to get faster, which is crazy because he's already so good offensively. Like if he just morphed into a bat first profile, he would be super, super valuable at the top level. But I think he's really taken it on himself to the fact that the rest of us had said like, oh, well, he might not play center field because he's not quite fast enough. I still don't think he will. I think he profiles so perfectly in right where his plus arm will play. And that's a little bit why we dinged him, is that if he ends up in right field, you have to hit to provide value there. And we think he'll do that. But, Bobby Witt Jr. hits as a shortstop and Adley Rutschman hits as a catcher. Those are not hitting first positions. So their profile takes a leap above J-Rod. But if we look at this in 10 years from now and J-Rod is one of the best hitters in all of Major League Baseball and, is a perennial MVP candidate, and we're sitting here thinking like, oh man, we missed the boat by not like ranking him first overall, I wouldn't be surprised. When we did overall grades on these guys, all three of them got 70s on the 20 to 80 scale. Nobody else did. So we see them all in the same tier. You could really rank them any way you want. It just came down to positional value for us, I think, in the end. But all three are capable of being superstars, multiple-time All-Stars, and franchise cornerstones in Kansas City, Baltimore, and Seattle, which all three of them really need that. Seattle's obviously closer to contention right now than Kansas City or Baltimore, but it feels like all three of those are ready to turn over the page here. And Witt, Rutschman, and Rodriguez are going to be big pieces of those puzzles in all three spots.
Sam, when you look at guys who've made the most sizable leap to get into the top 100 this year, I know I mentioned Anthony Volpe, coming out of the 2020 season, granted, we didn't have a minor league season in 2020, but going into last year, Anthony Volpe was barely a top 10 prospect in his own organization. He's now the top 10 and top 10 overall prospect, checking in at number 8 overall, and he's the top ranked Yankees prospect. Is he the guy who's kind of had the biggest rise, the most helium in the prospect evaluation parlance, or is there somebody else who's on the top 100 list who you look at as maybe who's made even a bigger jump?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it compared to the 2021 preseason list, then yeah, Volpe is made the biggest jump. Looking at him last year, we knew him as a first round talent. I think the Yankees liked him even more than a lot of other people going into the 2019 draft. But as we saw him last year, it was pretty clear that he had made significant strides offensively. He went back home to New Jersey, worked with a hitting guru, really tapped into both his hit tool and his power tool. You look at him, you might not think this is a clear power guy. He's 5'11", 180. That's what he's listed at. But he showed plus power. He was right up there in terms of extra base hits across the minor leagues last year between low A and high A, single A and high A now. Still on the younger side. He plays a quality shortstop. When we were doing our midseason list, we're like, okay, this guy might be a top 100 candidate. And then again, getting feedback, it just kept being, no, push him higher. Keep going with him. He is really, really special. And we'll see what the Yankees do in the next couple of years. But at the beginning of the offseason, everybody thought they would be big players on the shortstop market. And that didn't end up happening. They ended up making a trade with Minnesota to pick up kind of a short-term stopgap at shortstop. Kind of Falefa, I don't mean to disparage him in that way, but that's what it feels like, right? And they also have Peraza in that system, who's a gifted defensive shortstop, but it kind of feels like they're waiting for Volpe.
They're keeping the seat warm. Yeah.
Yeah. And, again, they were the high people on him from the beginning. And I think he even surprised them with the way he took off last year. He'll be challenged this year. He's going to reach the upper minors for the first time. And now he has that target on his back, maybe in a way that he didn't when he started out last year in Tampa, but he made a significant jump for sure. The other one I want to throw out there real quick, just focusing on this top 10, is Gabriel Moreno from the Blue Jays system.
Yeah.
He was one of those guys where we kind of had whispers going into last year that, hey, the alternate site, this guy was really good. Don't be surprised if something big happens. And it's like, okay, great, but we haven't seen it yet. 2020 was so weird for prospect evaluation in many ways. Not everybody got to see everybody. The things you hear sounds great, but it could be a lot of smoke. You didn't know until the season started last year. Moreno, it felt like every night when those first couple of weeks when we were following him, he was doing something at Double-A New Hampshire that was really special. I think he ended up slugging above 600 there. A thumb injury kept him out for most of the year. He ended up making up for a little bit of lost time in the Arizona Fall League. But he was already a pretty good catching prospect. He's athletic back there. He actually, when he signed with the Blue Jays, was an infielder. And he's gotten a little bit of time at third base just to tap into that athleticism. But now that the fact that he's starting to hit, he could be a plus hitter, above average power, kind of the same thing we were saying with Rutschman. If he played another position, we would still think of him as a top 100 prospect because the bat is so good. The fact that he plays a quality, catcher only helps him, and that's what makes him number 7 right now, and really put him on the map last year. And I feel pretty comfortable saying amongst the Blue Jays catching depth right now, including who's in the major leagues with Danny Jansen and Reese McGuire and Alejandro Kirk, Moreno has the highest ceiling. He's probably going to be their backstop by June or July. It's just he needs to get regular at bats. He hasn't really seen AAA much. He'll do that quickly, and if he hits like we expect him to, the Blue Jays have all these pieces in place right now to be real contenders this year. Moreno is going to be just as big a piece when they do add him officially, probably in the first half.
And oh, by the way, Matt Chapman at third base now.
Yeah. You look at that infield now. It is.
They are loaded. Loaded. Yeah. Matt Chapman's the only one who didn't have a big league dad. Everybody else, Gavin Biggio, Bo Bichette, Vlad Guerrero Jr. I don't know Matt Chapman's dad. Maybe he did have a good career. I'm not quite as familiar with him as, I spent my entire childhood behind Bo Bichette's dad, watching him. So, which he apologized to me for once. Said, "Oh yeah, our season ticket's right behind you in left field." And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you had to watch that."
I gotta say, Dante Bichette is just a great dad. He
He's a
seems
great
like
dude. Yeah.
just from what we've seen from afar and talking to Bo and stuff like that. But I remember going to see Buffalo play in Scranton, and just there was somebody waiting by the bus, and I'm like, that's Dante Bichette,
Dante
just looking like a
Bichette.
dad.
Yeah.
Just looking like a dad, wanted to go see his son.
The baseball dad. It's pretty cool stuff. All right, Sam, one question that I know you guys always get, and I'm going to kind of vorp it. I don't even know. I was thinking of Volpe, and then I was thinking of Morph, and it kind of works because you'll see why. Who just missed out on the top 100? And if you had to project a Volpe-like or similar rising star for 2022, somebody for people to keep an eye on who's not in the top 100 right now, who would it be?
All right, so I'll take your first part of the question first. I wrote the story on who just missed, and some of the people we were getting feedback on, and you only have 100 spots, and we could have probably gone 110 of guys we want highlighted. But just off the top of my head, Jeremy Pena, shortstop for the Astros. Kind of everybody assumes he's going to be the heir apparent to Carlos Correa in Houston. He's had some recent injury issues, but before that wasn't much of a power hitter, seemed to really turn it on recently in that regard. We just needed to see it a little bit longer, but he's a really, really quality defender at short. So if he hits even a little bit, it's going to work out. But I think, there are some believers in his power out there and thought he belonged on that list for sure. Curtis Mead of the Tampa Bay Rays system. I'm a big fan of his. He had his own meteoric rise last year. I'm not going to say he's going to make another jump because he's very squarely on the top 100 list now. The guy can flat out hit. He did it everywhere last year, and that includes a very short stint at AAA. He was at single A. He was at high A. He hit in the Arizona Fall League where he had a long hit streak. I love watching him hit because he's from Australia, first off. So, Tyler, I'm sure you're a fan of his. But
took him in our draft.
That's right.
Stole him one pick ahead of you.
I was so angry about that. I'm still angry to this day. If you watch him hit, he literally just stands kind of straight in the box. There's not much movement going on there.
He's got a very smooth, there are not a lot of complications with his swing.
Yeah, and that comes from his dad, who played in the Australian Baseball League when it wasn't known as well as it is now, and it was not much of a budding sport down there back in those days. But he was just like, hey, just stand tall in the box, make sure you can see the ball adequately, and when it comes, hit it, and hit it as hard as you can. And he does a really good job of that. We'll see how the power is going to play. I have some questions about him defensively, but if he's back to hitting 300 this year at AA, like, he's going to be a top 100 prospect pretty quickly when we need replacements. One guy who probably won't make it on because he's going to graduate before we can move him on is Aaron Ashby of the Milwaukee Brewers. I'm a big fan of his. He picked up velocity last year. The slider is really good for him. He's got a quality changeup. So there's 3 pitches there for him to start. Milwaukee brought him up. They moved him up and down a bunch of times last year, but they kept him up the latter half of the season as a reliever. They've talked this spring about wanting to move him back into a starting role. They've had success with that in the past. Brandon Woodruff, Corbin Burns, guys who have gotten a little bit of time in the bullpen before becoming starters. Could he be that next guy? We'll see. The only reason we held him off is because the control isn't quite good enough to say like he's definitely going to be a starter. But if it tightens up even a little bit, he has the pitches to be that guy. And then Brandon Williamson, another one I want to touch on real quick. Pitcher traded from the Seattle Mariners to the Cincinnati Reds. Gives the Reds another tall left-handed pitcher. But he has 4 quality pitches, really bumped up his stock last year in the Mariners system. All the pieces are there for him to start. He doesn't necessarily have the longer track record that we wanted to see out of some of these other pitchers. But, put him next to Lodolo, put him next to Hunter Green. That's a pretty good trio for the Cincinnati Reds now. And I'm fascinated to see how they mold him now that he's in that system. But, another guy who just missed. In terms of your question of like who could be the Volpe this year, I don't know. I don't want to say.
You didn't necessarily say him last year because
I didn't.
That's surprising guys.
Right. Like trying to predict that is a fool's errand because if it's somebody we really believed in, he would be a top 100 guy. And, like there are some guys I want to bang the table for. Like Joey Weimer of the Milwaukee Brewers. He snuck on at number 100 just because I love the way his tools play. Guy plays crazy on the field, like 110% effort all the time. Throws hard, hits hard, runs hard, plays defense hard. We just haven't seen it at the upper levels yet. And there's some questions of like his tornado-like swing. Somebody's going to take advantage of that. But if he hits like he should, like he's tooled all the way up and could be a top 50 guy by the end of the year. But even he's now a top 100 guy at the very, very end of the list. So I'll kind of leave it open-ended. I want to be surprised. That's the thing I love about this job is you can talk to a bunch of people, you can study a bunch of people, you can watch a ton of video. Somebody's going to make an adjustment that we haven't seen yet and put themselves squarely on our radar. And I like that. Good for them. Like it shows you just how unpredictable this sport really can be. And if it was predictable, it wouldn't be fun.
I'm with you. You can check out the new top 100, all the top 30s by Monday. The American League West will be out as well. And those are all, of course, at MLB.com/pipeline. We will step aside for this penultimate segment, hear from Josh Jackson coming up in a moment, and back to wrap it up on the other side. Interrupt this podcast to bring you another thrilling edition of Ghosts of the Miners. Now, here's your correspondent and host, Joshua Jackson.
Welcome back to Ghosts of the Miners, in which all of you out there in Radioland must identify the legitimate historical ball club hiding amidst the fraudulent pair. One was the pride of a small town. The others were the delusions of a small man. In the last segment, I asked you which of the following minor league baseball teams did at one time exist. A, the Sherman Orphans. B, the Wheeling Bachelors. C, the Pocatello Mourners. You can stop your weeping and a wailing if you guessed A, the Sherman Orphans, who were all alone in the Texas Southern League way back in 1895. Far from alone in their name, those early Orphans shared a moniker with many minors clubs and one major league one throughout the late 19th century and into the middle of the 20th. Orphan teams had often been abandoned by their fans, by their parent clubs, or, like the Chicago Colts, who became the Orphans in 1898, by a star player. In Chicago's case, the departure of Cap Pop Hansen made the team the Orphans for 5 seasons until they became the Cubs in 1903. But our Sherman Orphans were left on our doorstep without so much as a note of their origin. 1895, the year Sherman was the Orphans, was the very first year of the Texas Southern League. However, an 1894 article in the San Antonio Daily Light bemoaning that the Lone Star State was about to begin yet another baseball season without a professional circuit after the demise of the Texas League in 1892, did mention Sherman, a town about 50 miles northeast of Dallas, as an amateur baseball hub. So, who orphaned the Orphans? It may be a mystery of history, but we know for sure the Sherman Club tried to be their opponent's daddy in 1895, although ultimately it was the Orphans who hollered uncle. In May, papers in league cities like Fort Worth, San Antonio, and Austin described the Sherman team as dropping in to fatten their percentage in the league races, pounding the ball quite heavily, and the Orphans are good ballists. They did also have William Klondike Douglas, who, at 6 feet tall, was no little orphan. And he served a stint as manager before beginning a big league career in 1896, playing for the Browns and the Phillies over 9 years. But after a strong open to the season for Sherman, nobody would give the Orphans any more, and they met a gruel fate, finishing 53-64, 4th out of 8. The franchise started the next year as the Sherman Students, but like always, school let out in June and the team disbanded. And that's all of the turns and all of her twists for the Orphans. Now, on to the question for next time. Which of these once hot-button political put-downs was put on a uniform in the minors of yesteryear? A. The Victoria Roundheads. B. The Muhlenberg Mossbacks. C. The Columbia Commies. Want to know the answer? Vote. Or tune into the next Ghosts of the Miners. But for now, you'll have to excuse me. My producer Ben Hill is drying the laundry in a spring breeze, and he's 3 sheets in the wind.
Saying goodbye on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. I don't know. You got nothing else?
No, I mean, like next week, it'll be the last week of the offseason.
Yeah, next week will be our opening day preview. We'll have an idea of where kind of, I guess.
Kind of. It'll be I think we'll talk about this more, Tyler. I'd still want to do the opening day Palooza.
This is episode 350, not 351. Yeah.
Right.
I get it.
We'll do a larger opening day preview at some point the following week. But it'll be, like you say, like hopefully we'll have a slightly clearer picture of where guys are going to land and where they're going to be starting the year. And, we'll have low A promotions with Ben, and there might be some other announcements that are coming that will affect minor league baseball before opening day.
Ooh,
nothing rule changes.
A tease.
Yeah, a little bit
as
of a
they
tease.
say.
Yeah.
Interesting. April 5th, opening day for spring or for AAA. The rest of the levels of the minors will open. That's a Tuesday. Rest of the levels of the minors will open on Friday, April 8th. And you can get your tickets now for minor league games across the country. Head to MILB.com and find your favorite team there. And big thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us today on this 350th episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. For Benjamin Hill, Josh Jackson, and Sam Dykstra, my name is Tyler Mahan, and we will talk to you next week.